All right. I bring out Scratchpad when I've got something I got to talk about, and I got to go a little deeper, and it's not a backpack show kind of thing. But John Lee Dumas, oh my gosh, I haven't hung out with him in person since I don't even know. I think we were on a boat together, but this is it. We're gonna talk. He's got a new book out. We got to talk about that. I'm not gonna bother with an intro. That's all you get. JLD himself. He's headbanging. I'm bringing him right out. What do you think? That's some good starter music, right? It gets you in
That
the mood.
is my jam, brother. I always known that we were brothers from another mother. Obviously, we've got the main connection, but so much more.
Tell you, I so many business shows still sound like their '80s elevator music. I just thought we need to get it a little up here. So that's all.
I love it. I love it.
So you've done journals before. You've done some really good stuff. You've run Entrepreneur on Fire for 8,000 years now. You're on, episode like 7,900 or something. I don't even
Not
know.
far off.
Gosh, it's intense. It's intense, the journey for EOF. But I want to go backwards. You got a brand new book coming out March, so around the corner. The Common Path to Uncommon Success. Unbelievable the work that went into this thing. Talk about okay, why should you bother writing a book anyway? Why did you have to do this?
Listen, you're an author. We talked about this a little bit pre-interview. I mean, sometimes there's just a book inside you that has to come out. In 2012, Chris, I could not write this book. I was a clueless, bumbling idiot. In 2016, I was just kind of starting to figure a few things out, but I was still a long ways away from figuring things out. And it really came to a head in 2019. I was at my 3,000th interview, and I was like, wow, I've interviewed a lot of people, obviously Chris Brogan being one of the studs that I've been able to interview over the years. And I know that there's so many commonalities, just fundamental principles that they've all trod upon on their path to uncommon success. Now, notice it's not their path to millions and billions of dollars. It's to uncommon success. It's to living the life that we want to be living by choice. And I sat down, sketched out what I thought the 17 elements were. Well, what the elements were specifically.
Right.
And it came out to be 17. And I was like, this is it. 17 chapters. I'm going to sit down. 2020, we were quarantined, obviously, Chris, but I used that time, 2 hours every single day for 8 months, January 1st to October 16th. To August 16th, like right around that date. 480 writing hours, because I'm crazy like that. I keep track of these things.
You really do.
480 writing hours. And I wrote 71,000 words, 273 pages. And the book cannot be one word less. I hate writing to just write. There's zero fluff. It's all value, period.
Well, with you, and again, I'd said this brief thing backstage too, is like if this had come from anybody, I would have had some different opinions about it. The information's there and it's important, but if just any person said this is what you got to do it, I'd be like, well, how do I know? Or like, what are your bona fides? Or how do I kick your tires? But you've done it all. You've shown it. You've put it all together. You do it publicly in front of people for Entrepreneur on Fire with your podcast and the other projects and products that go with it. You've demonstrated it many times through. So when I read through it, I'm looking at, even at the very first chapter, identify your big idea. Or as you're working your way through it, and even when you get to systems, which I got so excited, I said, I've seen you work on these things in front, of everybody, in front of me, in front of everybody. I've seen you say, yeah, that's good, but I think I need a system for that. You want to talk just a minute about that? Do you want to talk about like when you come up with these 17, what made it important for you to share the journey as you were doing it? And now that we've culminated it into a book, what's the difference? How do you see it now with reflection?
So somebody that we are both friends with, Pat Flynn, was like a very early inspiration to me when it came to the transparency side of things. Back in 2012, I was just like, can you really be a success and generate revenue and run a business without being slimy and scammy? Like, I just didn't know, because I didn't come from that world. I was an officer in the U.S. Army. I went to law school, which I dropped out of. I tried corporate finance, and I was just this traditional path. I didn't know that you could actually be like a good person, giving good value and make good revenue. I'm just talking, whatever that looked like financially, just like enough to live a life. And Pat, with his income reports, just showed me that like you can be a good family person providing good value, and you can make a living off of this, and you can generate significant revenue even if you're doing it right. And so I just remember saying to myself in that moment, Chris, I'm like, if I ever get to a point where I'm doing something similar, I'm actually adding real value to this world and generating actual revenue as a result, I'm going to show people how I'm doing it so that they can see the successes I'm having, hopefully emulate some of those, see the failures that I'm having, the mistakes that I'm making, hopefully avoid some of those, and just overall, just see what it's like to give real value, make real impacts, and run a real business. Like that was the goal. And so you talked earlier about the transparency side of things. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be transparent, open, and honest. I was a really bad podcast host when I started, like really bad. Like when I interviewed Chris Brogan, I was like, this guy's a pro. I'm going to ask him 4 questions and shut up and step out of the way and point the spotlight on him and let him share his genius. And that's what I did for hundreds of episodes because that's all I could do. And of course, doing a daily show, I got a little bit better every day, little tiny bit, but I put in the reps and just continue to grow the business. And, I'm a decade in now, Chris, and it's crazy to think that when we, met back in Maine, in that coffee line and, you were kind enough to not ignore me. I'm like, this is a cool dude. And we've shared some cool adventures since then. You mentioned on a boat, we did the Podcasters Paradise cruise together and such great memories from that. And, now we get to hang out on StreamYard. So life is good.
Festivals all around. I every now and again I'll just remember that word festivals from being in Jamaica and eating those little rolls.
Oh, so good.
You, and to your point about the podcast, so I remember one of the first things I said to you when you said, hey, I'm going to do this daily podcast. I said, daily?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's silly. Like, don't do it. All my advice is bad, by the way. That's what I've come to learn. I get paid for advice for a living, and it's all bad. So don't do daily. You said, well, I think, and you were very positive about it. You were like, I think I'm just going to give it a try. And of course, you were right. So it worked out a little. Start where you are with what you have. It grows. Says, Dab, Troy says, great interview. I'm an early member of Podcasters.
Yeah, Troy. Love it, brother.
Buddy. So in that process, as I was sort of looking through your stuff, your kindness of saying, that I took the moment to reply back. I'm nobody. I'm just like everybody else. I pay someone to put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you. You talked about finding mentors. It is important, and it is spooky sometimes. It's spooky to open yourself up and reach out to people. But I also found that when I tell people to look for mentors, I always say, don't ask Richard Branson for advice. He's a little busy. Like, you got to kind of find the guy that's on the rise like you, or the person who's like coming up or something like that. You also had a whole chapter for masterminds right after the mentor. I want to talk about how that maybe has shifted over the years, mentors and masterminds for you.
So much. I'm glad you brought that mentor thing with Richard Branson, because I get that all the time, Chris. So like, if I could just have Richard Branson to be my mentor, well, A, like you said, he's a little busy. B, do you want to run an airline? Do you want to run like a vinyl record store? Like, he could be awesome helping you get to those areas potentially, but you need to find a mentor who is currently where you want to be. Back in 2012, I wanted to be a successful business podcast host. What did I do? I found a successful business podcast host. Jamie Masters was running The Eventual Millionaire. And to your point, Chris, which I love and agree with 100%, she was about a year to a year and a half in. So she wasn't, decades down the road. She still remembers what it was like to launch. She still remembers what it was like to begin. And she was the perfect podcast mentor for me, because she was exactly where I wanted to be a year from now as a successful business podcast host. That changed everything. You mentioned masterminds. I wanted to surround myself with people who were also just starting and struggling and having doubts and fears, so we could support each other. So Cliff Ravenscraft, a mutual friend of ours, fortunately, had just launched the podcast mastermind, and it was no small investment, $3,500 for a year.
Wow.
I dig deep into my Army savings, because that's all I had at the time. And I invested in that mastermind. And for a year, I got together with Cliff every week, which of course was amazing in and of itself, but then 9 other people in this 10-person mastermind. And I got to know those people, and I got to, share my doubts and my fears and my struggles and my obstacles and challenges. And by the way, have a goal every week of what I'm going to do by the next week, and then know that they're going to hold me accountable and really, in a good way, shame me if I didn't accomplish that goal because I need
Right.
to be moving forward. And so those two things, the mentor and the mastermind, critical parts of your journey, step 5 and step 6 in the common path to uncommon success. You have to have that as part of your process.
When you talked about the price of that, it was funny because I was thinking about the fact that there are times that you and I have had that moment where, again, it's a question of, oh, this is going to be a little bit of money, but I think I'm worth it. I hope I'm worth it. I'm going to put the money in. And we're also in the business of convincing other people to part with their money. And one difference in kind of running an entrepreneurial business is we're asking someone who that's their real money. They put it in the bank money. This is not asking the boss, can you float me 3,500? I'm just going to put an expense report in. It's all going to be fine. Like, we know when we're given training, the difference between that versus when we invest in training. This is that again. You want to talk about your journey and how you spent money on the way up and why you feel so good being able to offer the things that you offer?
I want to hit that question, but like, I don't want to make this interview all about me because like, I just love you and I want it to be about you as well, because
terrible, horrible idea.
A memory that I have of you that I just think your audience has to know and like has always inspired me. And it honestly inspired me with this book in a lot of ways. Is back at that conference we're talking about, you were the keynote, and this is back pre-Entrepreneurs on Fire. So of course, pre-John being anything or anybody, just like basically an Army veteran at that time. And you were up on stage and you were holding your book in your hands. And I remember just thinking to myself, holy crap, what would it take for me to ever have a reason to write a book, as far as like have a message, a mission to share? And I saw you up there with such purpose. You had dog-eared all of the pages in the book, like all these different pages that you wanted to use as part of your keynote. And I thought it was like such a cool part of like what you did up there. And you were going to certain pages and reading these passages and then looking at the audience and like expounding upon those different parts. And I was like, man, this person is just on fire. Like, it was literally coming out of my ears when I was like seeing you with this book, with this, you would put this together and people were buying it, and I could hear them whispering around, like, is he doing a book signing? Like this and that. I was like looking up at this person on stage and I'm like, this person has a message and a mission. I want one day to be in that boat. So buddy, it took me about 9 years, but, got there. It's my first traditionally published book. I can't produce the content on the written word nearly at the level that you do as far as just quantity and quality, but I did my best. I put this in and I'm super excited about it. So I just wanted to just take a second to thank you for just inspiration you've been to me over the years.
You're such a value add kind of guy, JLD. I couldn't expect it any other way. Besides, you're used to being the host, so you can't possibly sit still.
I got to change. I got to flip the mic every now and then. Come on.
That's very kind of you, and thank you. And but I when I was listening to it, I have a real tough time with praise too. So as I'm listening to it, I was thinking about the first time I met an actual published author that I didn't really know anything about. The difference between like when you meet a published author that you're a big fan of or something like that. But I was at a Barnes & Noble, and it happened to be a book signing going on for this guy, Chuck. And Chuck was there to do a book signing. And I was like, oh, I've never been to a book signing before.
Right.
It's Barnes & Noble. Sure, I'll walk over. It was some kind of management book. I don't even remember the title anymore. But it said on the back, because you read the jacket while you're standing around waiting, and it was just me and him for a bit. And I was just like reading the jacket. I'm not even talking to him. He's just there, and I'm like shy. And I read it's just us two, though. It's like the worst kind of shy.
I've been there, yeah.
So I'm reading the jacket, and it says like, was an advisor to Bill Clinton, was an advisor to, and the names just get bigger. Like Bill Clinton's like the low name on the list. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Now I'm an aspiring book author, but I never believed I'd really get one. And I'm in this room with this guy, and I say to him, oh my gosh. Like, so, hi, how are you? Blah, 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 all that. I said, this is so amazing. I said, but I'm a little weirded out. There's not like this massive throng of people waiting. Being a jerk. I didn't mean to be a jerk, but I was like, why is there no audience here?
Question, yeah.
Because in my belly, I'm like, because that's what's going to happen when I do my book signing. Like, no one's going to be there. And he says, can I tell you something? I said, you can tell me anything. I'm all ears now. He said, they've been advertising this for weeks. They've been putting my books up front for weeks. My book sales have gone up all over the place, not just this store, because of all this free promo and advertising. It goes out to emails. BN.com puts it in their nationwide thing. He goes, I don't care. No one's here. He says, besides, I met you. I thought, this is great. But that was my first experience, kind of like when you watching me on the stage with the keynote. And I thought, okay, well, all right. So if I have a book, then even if no one comes to my signing, it might still be a successful book somehow. I don't know. I was so wrong, but
That's why I'm secretly glad that I can't do like in-person book signings right now, is because I'm like, nobody's going to show up anyway. So let's just focus on the podcast interviews.
it's the worst feeling. But, you know, let's talk about that for a second, just because it'll be helpful to people, I guess. Book promo has changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
You have a book promo team because you're a pro and you work with important people. Everyone used to ask me that question, like, how'd you get on this to New York Times bestsellers list? I don't know. I said, I asked everybody that I'd been friends with for 10 years, could you just buy a couple books? And they said, okay. And it worked, but there was no formula that I could figure. And then I used to say, just go see what Gary did, because I'm sure he's better at it. You've got a whole big process. I don't want you to run into everything about the book promo, but talk a little bit about what it's like and how it's like for you to be on this side of the mic and that sort of a thing for getting the word out about this book.
It is a flip. You know, for 9 years, for 3,000 episodes, I am usually the person interviewing this amazing, successful entrepreneur. And I've done that over 3,000 times now and loved every single one of them. And as a result, I've given a lot of traffic, a lot of publicity, a lot of notoriety to a lot of individuals because of the amount of listeners I have on the show. So far, Entrepreneurs on Fire, over 100 million listens, over 1.4 million every single month. So
Wow.
it has a lot of earballs, as we like to say in the industry, a lot of earballs. And now, after 9+ years, I'm flipping it around and I'm saying, you know, please, you know, to all of you amazing entrepreneurs who have a million things going on, who are busy, who have life, who have business, who have products and services and this and that, promotions, you know, all these things. Will you take a sliver out of your busy lives? And will you do these 3 things for me? And Chris Brogan was actually one of 300 people that I sent a personal video to. I put in the work and created 300 personal videos that, by the way, were an average of 4 minutes long. They weren't short videos. 4 minutes was the average length of my videos. I think Chris's was like 9 because I just kept talking because I love him so much. But the average video is about 4 minutes long. And literally, I'll cut to like the meat and potatoes part of the video. And I think this is where people need to, when you have given value for so long and there is a reciprocity there, just don't like hide things. Like, don't try to like kind of sneak in like asks. For me, I was just very blunt. And I'm like, listen, I would truly appreciate not just 1, but 3, maybe 4 pre-orders on Amazon. And then I tell them why. I say, number 1, because Amazon will base their pre-orders, their pre-order buy, bulk buy, based off of how many pre-orders that I have. So the more pre-orders I can get, the bigger the bulk buy from Amazon and the better chance I have of really having this book go big. Number 2, would you consider a bulk package? I start at 12 books and then go up to 1,200. They have amazing reward experiences. Can you please look over the bulk packages if any make sense for your team, for yourself? I would appreciate a bulk buy. Here's the link, eofire.com/bulk. And lastly, you have an awesome audience. That's why you're getting this video, because you're a really successful entrepreneur. Can I get in front of your audience on your platform to share my message, my mission, this book that I poured myself into for 480 writing hours, 71,000 words, my 9+ years of learning from, you know, the successful entrepreneurs of the world? Can I share this message with your audience? And so I didn't try to skirt around it. I went directly for the 3 asks that meant the most to my business, and I was direct about it. And you know, the email stopped. Was the last line was, if you're a no to all of the above, no harm, no foul. Like, I get it. You're busy. I say no all the time. I have to. I get 400 inbound requests a month of people trying to be on EO Fire. Obviously, there's about 390 no's every month. That just is how it has to happen. So I know no's. I'm all about the no's. But this is my direct ask. This is what will help me in preferential order. Have a great day.
And it was that crisp and it was that clean. And I had received 2 requests. Oddly enough, by the way, your promo team was behind both companies at the same time. It was just an accidental overlap of same humans in my inbox for 2 different people, which, you know, they're a good business. Good for them. They, you know, they're going to be promoting people. And she noticed and realized that, she said, oh, I just realized that, you know, this happened, which was funny to me, but I gotta be careful how I say this. Yours was absolutely straightforward, perfect, pure. And you've built up a decade plus of credit. You know what I mean? If you said right now, can you come down to Puerto Rico? I'd say no. If you said to me, can you get and do this big project for me? I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm your man, right? Like that's the feeling, and that's because a decade of being there, being gregarious, being positive, never saying a bad thing about anybody that I've ever heard ever in my life, and all that sort of a thing. And it's just you say yes, I say yes. It's good. How hard is it?
Can
By
you
the way,
Jackie down to Puerto Rico?
she'd love it. I still have the mic I won from JLD at a conference for saying his "Imagine You Wake Up" speech the most accurately.
I totally remember that. So I had my sixth question, which of course you answered, Chris, being a guest on the show, for my lightning rounds, that I asked 2,000 times because I had 2,000 episodes every day for 5.5 years. So 2,000 days in a row. I asked this as my lightning round final question. It was kind of a long paragraph question. At one of my talks, I had, somebody raise their hand who thought they could repeat verbatim or as close to it that entire question because they've heard the show so many times.
Wow.
And a couple of people tried it and they butchered it. They were they weren't terrible, but they didn't get that close. And then Troy gets up and just crushes it. So
that's
gave him a high LPR 40. Same mic I'm on right now.
Oh, very nice. That's a good mic. Back to your book, just a tiny bit more. One of my favorite parts of the book was the part where you talk about implementing systems near the end. There's two reasons I like it. One is that I'm an absolutely asystematic person if I can help it. I am like so anti-system. I get grumpy when people do non-human things. I always sort of get that feeling like the minute you break from being a human, there's a problem. But we also have a phrase that we coined around here called to automate is human. Like if you do automation right, if you do systems right, you have more time to be human. You hit that really well. You talked about, your work with Chris Ducker. Of course, your other half, Kate Erickson, isn't so bad in the systems business. That's her grind. So you kind of have a lead right there. But that whole chapter really gets people from that notion of you can go it alone to maybe you need a system and a team and whatever. I want to talk just about that for a minute because I think it's another good selling reason why people need to pick up this book.
So listen, for my top 300 influencers, like I mentioned, I did a personal 4-minute video. That's not scalable, but you need to do things that don't scale. And that's why I'm having a really successful, pre-launch right now. Mm-hmm. I have about 2,700 other people who have been a guest on my show. So I have a relationship with, I have reciprocity built up with. Sure. I can't send them all those videos. So to your point, I sent a very kind, but obviously boilerplate one video where I wasn't pretending it was personal. Like yours said, Chris, this is a personal video because I really wanted to know it was personal, and it was personal. And I talked to you, about us, our friendship, our history together. So, it was clear that this was for you and only you.
Right.
And the other 2,700 though, I had my VA personally email individually. So it was not a blast email. It was, and he's still only at like 900 now. So he's still going through all 2,700. So every day he's doing a few hundred of these where he's sending the video with very similar copy that you got, but it's just like, hey, this is a quick video from JLD, not a personal video. It's a quick video where I'm just like, hey, thank you for being a past guest on Entrepreneurs on Fire, blah, blah, blah. Then I dive into what I told you, on your show, like individually, and on your video individually. But this one is, just automated because now I'm getting out 2,700 emails where people are like, oh, cool. Like, I know this isn't personal, but this is a nice touch. Cause I even have them linked to their episode. So it's an individual email with the link to their episode. It's like a reminder of their awesome show on EO Fire. So to your grander question though, systems, tools, automations, processes, they allow you to share your message, your mission, your vision on just a grander level. Like we need to do things that don't scale, especially at the beginning of our journey when you're in that early season, because that's how you get initial traction. But once you get initial traction and you're rolling and you're starting to get bigger and more people are looking at you as an influencer and successful in these different things, it's time to go to the next level. Never forgetting about doing things that don't scale. Like I just shared, I'm 10 years in, I did 300 personal videos, period. I still do things that don't scale, but there's a lot of my business that is automated, that is, outsourced to my team, to my virtual assistants,
sure,
to to different, SaaS products that allow us to do just that. But to your point, which is so true, to automate as human, that allows me to do those 300 videos because I had the time and bandwidth to just crush them. It gives me the time and bandwidth to be recording my own audiobook, which is taking a very ridiculously long amount of time because it's a lot of work to do. Have you ever done your own audiobook, Chris?
I've done all of them.
I mean, it's work, right?
It's work. It's work. And something I learned this time, this is talk about humbling. I'm 50. So I'm reading Trust Agent's 10th anniversary edition into a mic in quarantine. So I'm by myself with my guy who sound edited it the first time for a different company. And he had to get me breaking every now and again because the timbre of my voice runs out at a certain couple of hours. I was like, mother of pearl.
I limit myself to 2 chapters a day, which is less than an hour for that very reason.
Yeah, mine was 1.5 to 2 hours. I would break every single day.
Yep.
So, listen, in the sake of time, I got to kick you out. You got to go do other stuff. You're very busy, very important. I
got a few extra minutes after the half of the hour. You don't have to kick me out, but if you need to, I'm out.
Well, we'll see how it works. I'm not messing with you. But no, I had what I was thinking about the last few minutes. I mean, in looking at the book too, there's a lot of little pulls in there from all kinds of the people that we know, all the people that you would expect to see in a John Lee Dumas storyline book. Amy Porterfield's in there, all the crowd, right? You got to. So that's great. But who's up and coming? Who's a new person? Who's a secret JLD find that you've talked to lately? Maybe a guest, anything that you're like, this person made me feel something I haven't felt in a little bit. I feel good about this person.
2017, I launched this puppy right here. It's called the Mastery Journal. One of my best works ever. It's how to master productivity, discipline, and focus in 100 days. I'm unbelievably proud of that journal. And as part of the promotion, I said 7 people, $7,500. You come to my home in Puerto Rico for 3 days and we crush it. And that got filled up first day. People came down, a couple months in the future. We did a whole long weekends. It was amazing. One of those individuals, 23 years old, like low key, I'm a little like flamboyant, gregarious, as you say. Like I got, sometimes like, John, simmer down a little bit, simmer down. This guy was just like very level, very steady, but like one of those people you lean into when they talk because you're just like, hey, this guy's sounding like he's about to say something interesting. He doesn't always say something interesting, but he sounds like he's about to. And I was just really impressed. I turned to Kate. I'm like, this guy's going to do something cool. And I want to be a part of it if he does. It's kind of like spotting like that 14-year-old basketball player that just has it. You're like, if I could buy his like rookie basketball card right now, like that'd be great for the future NBA.
Nice.
And the guy left, obviously that was over 3 years ago now, but he just continued to go from strength to strength. And I've obviously tracked and I've remained friends with him. He's a very good friend of mine. And I've seen his process and I've like all of that. And now he's just launching this great company that's called Guestio, and I won't get into details about it, but it's a super cool company doing really cool things. This guy's name's Travis Chappell, and he now has a kid, but he's still like running this business like he's just this hungry entrepreneur, and I'm impressed. Travis Chappell running Guestio. That guy's been on my radar for a while, and he's doing big things.
Travis Chappell, it is. All right, I'm bringing him up really quick as fast as I can. So he's got all the right quotes. Look at him. Let's see. Boop, like that.
That's him right there.
So he's already got the good hero grab site and everything like that. So
yep.
You heard it here first.
He launched that podcast when he was in Puerto Rico with me. We built it. We launched it. And then he launched a SaaS company called Guestio, which is a project I've been too scared to take on. And I'm proud of him for doing it.
SaaS companies are, a lot of our friends that we know are kind of coming up with cool things, and so no idea. Jeff said he knew. So,
Jeff knew it. That's funny.
He had that one figured out.
Totally.
So I am so grateful you stopped by. I'm so grateful you had a chance to talk to us a little bit about the book. People, I've put it like 8,000 times on the screen, so if you can't see it, see Brogan.me/JLD book. You probably have an actual site for the book. I forget the URL.
Yeah, it's right there on my little name right there.
Oh yeah, there. uncommonsuccessbook.com. See, my little secret is to look right into your eyes. My camera is right over your head, so I just get to see a little bit of your head every like that. But That's how we do eye contact, baby.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well,
So-
listen, Chris, I'm grateful. I mean, I'm going all out with this book. I mean, beyond just the awesomeness of the book, which I pour myself into, you are getting 5 insane bonuses. I'm shipping to your door the Freedom Journal, that Mastery Journal I showed you earlier, and the podcast journal, all 3 of my journals for free with one single pre-order. Not like 5 pre-orders or 10 pre-orders, just like pre-order the book, one copy for yourself, because I know you're gonna love it. Then you're gonna buy some more for your friends and family. I'm doing that, and that's just one of the bonuses. There's a total of 5. They're all insane. UncommonSuccessBook.com. I'm shipping them to your door.
Get them. Go get them. John Lee Dumas, thank you for being here. This was so good. So good to catch up.
You're the best, brother. Much love.